Hello and welcome, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for joining today's webcast, which is the first episode of the new series that is Mastering Holistic Variant Management in Engineering. So, as you can see in the first episode, we will discuss holistic variant management in systems engineering and demonstrate how to implement it using a toolchain which comprises of Polarian for requirements management as well as Capella or system modeling workbench for architecture modeling. Along with it, we have Pure Variants as a dedicated variant management solution with connectors to both of this, which connects basically the two of these tools. So my name is Rachna, and I work as an application engineer and consultant at Pure Systems, and I will be your moderator for today. And along with me, I have Shivani, who is a presenter for the day, and she is working as a field application engineer and is sharing her knowledge about PLE and Pure Variants in tutorials and trainings to help our customers with their journey towards a systematic variant management approach. So, this is an overview of all the episodes of the series Mastering Holistic Variant Management in Engineering. Today is the first episode where we will discuss about holistic variant management in systems engineering, and based on a very simple example, we will walk you through its capabilities. As you can see, we have upcoming two other episodes which talk about increasing your reuse rate with holistic variant management that happens on the 6th of July, and how holistic variant management simplifies product development specifically in the automotive industry that is happening on the 7th of September. As shown, you can find all of our upcoming webcasts on our website. They are recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel as well. So today's webcast is also something that you can find on our YouTube channel later on. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to post them in the chat. Only our webcast team will be able to have a look at your questions. So we will collect them and answer them at the end in a Q&A session. But if there's still any open questions left after the session, we will contact you to answer them. Now, we will examine the engineering assets of an in-flight entertainment system product line. So firstly, we will review the superset architecture developed for this entertainment system in Capella, as you can see on the right-hand side, which is prepared by a systems architect or an engineer. Additionally, we will examine the 150% requirement specification document for the in-flight entertainment system prepared by a requirements engineer using Polarian. The 150% superset architecture contains of all the common or the variable assets of the entire product line. So we will establish variation points for the variable requirements in Polarian and the variable system function block diagram in Capella to ensure the consistent generation of variant-specific requirement documents and the architecture models. Additionally, we will also explore some capabilities like the structural and the parametric capabilities of Pure Variants, along with the preview functionality, which provides you a quick view of how will your 100% variant specific asset look like. And finally, to achieve this 100% variant specific asset, we will perform a transformation. Next slide. Thank you. So as you can see, we are talking about variations everywhere. So in here, you see on the left and the right-hand side, we have the private screens for the in-flight entertainment system, which is a common view in all the long distance or the international flights. Whereas when we look at the domestic or the short duration flights, we do not have something like this, right? So taking this as an example, which is the in-flight entertainment system, we will walk you through an example demonstrating the Pure Variants capabilities using the tool sets which I talked about. And now I would like to hand it over to Shivani, who will demonstrate and take you through the entire example.
Thank you, Rachna, and welcome everyone. So now let's have a look at the demonstration. So here we will see how we can control the variation with feature models by taking in-flight entertainment system feature model as an example. So we will examine how this feature model appears in Pure Variants, which comes as a desktop client as well as a web client. In our case, we are going to use the desktop client in combination with Capella. mainly because since the desktop client is also Eclipse based as Capella, we can work on these two on these two tools using the same Eclipse environment. So here, as you see, this is the feature model of the in-flight entertainment system with the different features underneath. And here also under next to each feature, you see a symbol. So these are the different variation types. So quickly to tell you all what are the different variation types available. So we have the mandatory feature that is represented by the exclamatory mark, meaning that it is going to be present in all the variants. Then we have the question mark, which is the optional features, meaning zero or n number of features can be selected. Then we have the X symbol, that is the OR feature, meaning at least one feature has to be selected if there are a set of OR features. And finally, we have the alternative features, meaning either one of them has to be selected. So what you see on your screen right now is the graphical view of the in-flight entertainment system feature model. Moreover, you see in the graphical view, we also have an arrow that basically shows the relation between the show navigation data feature to the video feature. So meaning it says the show navigation data requires the feature video. So let me now guide you all through another view, that is the tree view, which, as you can see, provides a more compact view of the feature model. And also when you hover over the feature, that is the show navigation data, automatically the feature video is highlighted. This shows that there is a relation that exists between these two features. Also, on your right hand side, what you can see is the relations view. Here it will give you all the set of relations that exist in relation to this particular element. So this was a brief intro to the in-flight entertainment system feature model. Now let's move on to the next part where we will configure a variant. So configuration of a variant is mainly done by selecting the features and the attribute values in that particular variant. So now, based on a feature model, we are going to configure a new variant. And how we do that is we right click the configuration space. In our case, it is called the in-flight variability configuration space. We right click on it, go to new, we click on the variant model, and then the dialog box appears where we have to enter the name of the variant model. So let's name it mid-air. So then we follow with the next steps and finish the configuration. So here we select yes, we would like to have these changes, and now you can see we have the mid-air variant model with us. So now let's start configuring this variant. So here, as you see, sorry, let's move to this part. Yeah. So now, as you see here, we have the feature show navigation data, which says it requires the feature video, which is at the top here. So let's select this and see what happens. So when we select the show navigation data, automatically the feature video got selected, if you'd noticed. So that is basically the pure variance auto resolver is always running in the background, and it basically takes care of all the relations that exist within the feature model. And now we also have these error markers popping up, which will help us configure our variant into a valid variant model. So here you see, as I mentioned, we have the alternative features here, right? So meaning either one of them has to be selected. So thus we've selected one of them, the error is gone. Now also here OR features. Since the feature video has been automatically selected, then its child features has to be configured as well. So now we're going to select one of the OR features. Yes, so we have selected cabin screens in our case, and now we have a valid variant model created for us. So here now what we saw was we built the feature model and also configuring the variant model. These two parts basically form a part of the problem space. Now let's move to the solution space in the toolchain by basically switching to Capella. So first let's look at Capella side and then move to the Polarian side. So here in Capella, now let's start adding the structural variations. All right, let's start restricting the Capella assets. How we do that is by adding restrictions. So as you see now, first let's have a look at the overview of the Capella assets. So this includes all the system functions that are there. So now you see, this is an overview of all the Capella assets, including all the system functions. Now let's take an asset. So we are going to consider provide navigation data. And what we're going to do is we're going to restrict this particular asset with the feature show navigation data, meaning that only if the feature show navigation data is selected in your variant, then this asset is going to be part of your 100% variant specific output. Else it is not. Another thing to note down here is that, so you see the show navigation data is basically the visible name. So we also have the unique name. So when we enter the restrictions, now we will see, we always make use of the unique name. So here the unique name is navigation data, right? So now let's continue. So we see we have the feature there, and now we are going to add the restriction by right clicking on the mappings view. So if you saw, we right clicked on the mappings view and we selected the new condition, and here upon clicking that, we have the restriction editor opening, and using the autocomplete functionality, which makes our job much easier, we can enter the rule. We added navigation data. Now here, as you see, we have created the rule, created the restriction, but still there, if you see the asset, right, it looks the same, right? So now we are going to make that asset, the provide navigation data variable, by dragging the asset and dragging and dropping it to the rule. So here you see, upon doing that, you will see on the block you have this restriction icon that shows up. So this way we can add restrictions or the structural variability basically in your 150% Capella assets. And also, if you have the propagation link activated, all the subsequent logical and physical functions will also be restricted along with the system functions. So this was how we add the restrictions into the Capella assets. Moving on, now let's have a look at the preview. That is the gray out mode. So for sure, before we generate a 100% variant specific output, it would be nice to have a look at it, like how it would look like, before actually triggering the process. So the preview mode helps us with that particular functionality. So here you see, we are going to select the variant of which we want to have a preview. So first we're going to select med air, and upon selecting that, then we have this icon in the mappings view. So here at the bottom, once we click that, then we will see that some of the blocks have been grayed out. So meaning for this particular variant, that feature has not been selected, so it is not part of the 100% variant specific output. And also you can switch between variants. So now let's select another variant. So we are going to select cheap air, and you see for the cheap air variant, we have not selected the feature that we had restricted the provide navigation data with, that is the feature show navigation data or navigation data. So that has not been selected. Therefore, this particular asset won't be part of your 100% output at this stage. So this is how the preview basically works. And also the same thing happens on the left side as well. And here, if you see, now we are also going to see a rule. So you see this rule that has been defined at the bottom. So this rule basically states that if we have the feature wide selected, then we have the value, we would like to have the value 16:9 injected, else 4:3 for the aspect ratio. So here the values can be included as well. So now we saw the preview of how our variant specific output would look like, right? Let's move on. Now let's have a look at the Polarian side. So here, let's look at the solution space of Polarian and see how the feature model looks like here, how we add the restrictions and so on. So now this is the UI of the Polarian tool, and upon clicking the pure variance icon, we can directly have a look at the in-flight requirements system specification. That is the 150% requirement specification document. Here you see we have added some fields for restriction and variance, and we will see how we are going to add the restrictions into these fields. So also some of the restrictions have already been added for us. On your right hand side, so this is all about the left hand side. On the right hand side, what we see is the pure variance into integration, which has the feature model loaded for us directly from pure variance. So if you notice, this is the same feature model that we saw earlier. And here now this 150% requirement specification document not only consists of all the common requirements that are going to be part of all variants, but also the variable requirements that are going to be part of some of the variants. So this was how the integration, the pure variance connector for Polarian looks like. Now let's move on to the next part. So we added restrictions to the Capella assets. Now let's start adding restrictions to the Polarian assets and see how the structural, how the structural variability works with Polarian. Okay, so for that, I am first going to select the requirement for which I want to add the restriction. So I have selected the requirement 242, and then after selecting that, on your right hand side within the widget, pure variance widget, you can click on the restrictions icon. So we're going to click on that, and then here, using the autocomplete functionality offered by pure variance, you can just start typing in the feature that you want to restrict it to, and then click apply. And you see, once we click apply, this restriction is added to the restriction field in this document. So this way we can add restrictions to the requirements. Now, what is the meaning of this? Now, we are basically trying to say that this requirement, that is 242, is going to be part of a 100% output only when the feature navigation data is selected in that particular variant. So this is how we basically add the structural variation points here. Now let's add calculations in the requirements. So we saw how to add restrictions. Moving on, let's add calculations and work with the parametric variability. So it's simple. So we are going to first choose a requirement that we would like to add the calculation to. So here we have chosen 254. So the requirement 254, and another thing is that calculations are by default added within the square brackets. So here you see the description has a square bracket. Now we're going to add calculations there. So what we will do is we're going to select the requirement. Then we have this calculation icon here. So we're just going to click on that, and then we have the calculation editor open for us. And here we can also select if we want to add it to the description or the title. So you see this drop-down menu helps us choose that. So now we're going to add it to the description. So here we can add proper calculations, Or we could also say that we want to inject a particular value of the attribute, like a feature attribute value needs to be injected over here. So that is what we are going to do in our case. So we are going to take the feature screen ratio, and the attribute of which is one of its attribute is aspect ratio. So we're going to say this value has to be injected within this particular requirement. So we click apply, and you see here the calculation has been placed within the square brackets. And this value, the attribute value, can be different for different variants. So you can have a fixed attribute value or a variable attribute value. It's up to you. It depends on what value you've given for that particular variant. So now we've done with the calculations. Moving on, let's now let's have a look at the preview mode. So similarly as Capella, let's also have let's see how the preview mode looks like with Polarian, right? So now, yes, so now as you see, we using the drop down menu, we will select a variant, and we selected cheap air, and at this stage, these are the selections that we've made for the variant cheap air. So we can see all the selections that have been made and so on. All right, so then we're just going to click on the show preview icon, and when we click on show preview, in our case, you see, since we have the show navigation data selected here at this stage, we have this particular requirement available. So let me just go back. Yeah, we have it. It's not grayed out, it's there. And the rest of the requirements have been grayed out depending on the kind of configurations we have done. So this is how the preview looks like. And also another part. So here you see 4:3. That is the value that has been injected here. So in your preview mode in Polarian, you can also have the value also gets injected into the requirements text. So I think that's something really nice. So we can easily see what kind of output we are expecting eventually, right? So yes, now we can reset the preview and then again switch between the variants. If you want to have a look at another variant, by just clicking on the drop down menu, we can do so. So yeah, so we saw the preview of in case of Polarian as well. So now coming to the last part, so where after adding all the structural variation points, parametric variation points to Capella assets, to Polarian requirement specification, and so on, now we would finally like to derive a variant specific requirement asset, a variant specific architecture asset, right? So how we do that? We do that by triggering something called as the transformation. All right, so we will see how we can trigger the transformation. So now we will perform the transformation on this particular variant model. So we have the in-flight, cheap air variant model selected, and this right now this is the state of the variant model. These are the selections that have been done, and you see that show navigation data has not been selected. And yes, so now let's see how the 100% asset looks like in both the tools. So for that, first what we need to do is we need to configure the transformation. So in our case, we want to trigger two transformations, right? We want to trigger a transformation where we have added two modules. One is the Capella module, and then transformation module, and then the Siemens Polarian module. In case of Capella, we have one transformation mode, so we didn't really have to do any other changes there. But in case of Siemens Polarian transformation, we offer three transformation modes. So that is copy, copy transformation, link transformation. These basically help us generate a separate variant specific output. Then we have the enumeration transformation or the tag transformation or also enum transformation. So these are all the same names for a particular transformation type. So here it's just going to tag that particular requirement with the name of the variant that it is a part of. So right now in our example or in our demonstration, we have chosen the tag transformation. Okay, so yes, so now we have we have added these module instances, done the configuration, and now we are going to trigger the transformation, that is the Capella and Polarian transformation that we had named to for this particular variant. So here what is basically happening is that the pure variance is mapping the feature model and the yes. So before that really happens, so what really happens in the background is that pure variance is mapping the feature models with the family models from Polarian and Capella that has been imported into pure variance. So pure variance will resolve all the variation points and finally provide us with the variant specific asset for a particular variant model. So that is what is happening in short. And now you see, once the transformation is successfully finished, let's see how the output looks like on the Polarian side first. Okay, so we have, so we are gonna, so as I said, we are doing the tag transformation. So there is no separate requirement document generated. It's just gonna tag the requirements. So we go to our 150% requirements document. And as you see here, that particular variant had these selections, right? So as you see, we had not selected the navigation data. So that is, yeah. So here, yes. So we had not selected the in the final VDM before triggering the transformation. If you remember, we had not selected the navigation data. So that's why it's not part of that cheap air variant that for which we triggered the transformation. So yes, so here you see, this is how the output will look like. That is the 100% variant specific output on the Polarian side. And now going on to the Capella side, let's see how this output looks like. So another point that I would like to mention before we move to the Capella side, in Polarian, with the what how exactly it would benefit, right? Like the tag transformation. Using the tag transformation, it is very easy to understand which requirement is part of which particular variant. With the help of the tag transformation, I think that's very helpful in case of complex systems. So that was one of the benefits of using the tag transformation. Okay, now let's go to the Capella side. Let's see how the 100% document looks like, architecture model looks like. So if you see, this is the 150% Capella asset, right? And now I am going to click on the 100%, and here you see some blocks have been disappeared, right? So now the provide navigation data has been disappeared because we had restricted it to navigation data, and that feature navigation data wasn't selected in our variant model. Therefore, it's not there here. So now this is how the 100% variant model looks like, variant specific output looks like on the Capella side. So yes, now with this we have reached the end of today's tool demonstration that covered the variant management across Polarian and Capella with the pure variants. So before moving on to the Q&A part, I would like to just point out some of the or some of just the highlights or the benefits of holistic variant management with pure variants. So as you see, these are some of the highlights of using this particular approach. And here we say that with this, it helps us with a holistic reuse approach for system and software engineering assets. Then it also helps with the improved communication about reuse of engineering assets across engineering domains. So this way what the companies can do is they can actually organize can consistently and efficiently reuse engineering assets across multiple product variants. And then since it is going to be a manual reuse, there will be less it will be less prone to errors. And then it also reduces the time to market for new product variants, so this way you can easily adapt and expand your products to meet the changing market demands and also other customer preferences. Then we have the reduced maintenance effort. So here you can reduce the amount of engineering maintenance effort required in order to maintain your product line. And then we have this mature standardized approach, that is ISO 265 26580. So here, this by using this approach, and since it's standardized, it will help us increase the quality of engineering assets, as it allows for better standardization and management of engineering data. So these are some of the benefits of using holistic variant management, and what value you can get out of using this holistic variant management with pure variants. So now with this, I would like to hand it over back to Rachna.
Okay, so thank you so much for the demonstration and taking us through the entire example and showing us the capabilities. Uh, so for the next steps, everybody who's watching this and will watch this, if you have more questions, you can always come back to us or write to us at contact@puresystems.com, or visit our website to know more information about the tool and its advanced capabilities. And I think now towards the end, we should go to the Q&A session and probably have a look if we have some questions here. Um, okay, so maybe I have a couple of questions for you, Shivani. So the first one says that the current example that you demonstrated was using Capella, which uses Arcadia as a modeling method. But will pure variants be compatible with other modeling methods like SysML and the tools which use it? So maybe, for example, Rhapsody.
Yes, yeah. So Pure Variants also has a connector for Rhapsody, so you can easily use other system modeling tools as well. So it's possible.
Okay, and maybe this brings me to another question. So, does the pure variant connector for Polarian and, let's say, maybe Rhapsody in this case, enable configuring variants once and resolving the variability accordingly in both the tools based on the same configuration?
Yes. So now, as you saw, we like the demonstration was basically with Polarion and Capella, right? So you just have to replace it with Rhapsody. So the more or less the functionality of the functionalities that is covered, it's similarly, and then you can do it in the same way, and this would always allow you to have a unified configuration of variants. And also it can be used to resolve variability in both the tools based on the same configuration that you have, so it's easily possible with using these two tools as well. So
Okay, so okay, let me check here, and probably maybe just one last question for now. So it says that you mentioned about the Pure Variants web client at some part in the presentation. So what are the capabilities of the web client, and do you think it can be used in combination with the desktop client?
yes, so one thing, as the name says, web client, Pure Variants web client, so it's completely web based. So it actually gives it's easy to use all these browser based tools in combination with the Pure Variants web client. Some of them are like Polarian. At this point, we have Polarian and code beamer, and then those next. So these are the tools, browser based tools, that you can use in combination with the pure variants web client. And you will see when you're using these tools, it has such smooth integration with it. It's so easily you can easily navigate to these tools and switch between these tools. And also another point at the top of my head is one is the parallel transformation. with the pure variance web client, we can have parallel transformations and basically trigger different transformations while you're working on your project. So I think I would also so these are some of just the 2 3 highlights that I've given, because recently, like just before this series started, we had a series that is what's new in pure variance 6.0. So there we have a separate webcast on the pure variance web client and its capabilities, and also there are other episodes where we talk about its how it works in combination with other tools like Polarian and Codebeamer. So I would ask the audience to do check it out. It's there in our YouTube channel. You can have a look at it and understand in more detail of all its capabilities. So
Okay, so I think that's all we have for now. So once again, thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you so much to everyone else who attended today.
thank you so much. Bye.